mean, the obvious question is, did people overreact? If what you're saying is it's vitamin D deficiency and it's not that fatal, did the decisions we made, was this the wrong way to go?
Yeah, I think we did. I mean, when you look at the Ferguson models, all of these things were going off of R naught. R naught is a reproductive number that assumes the population that the disease is entering has zero immunity to it, right? But what's really happened is and what a lot of epidemiologists will point to is you have to go after RE, which E is the has to do with what portion of the population is actually susceptible. So if there's any previous immunity to this in the population, it puts the brakes on the spread of the virus quite quickly. In fact, Michael Levitt's been presenting a lot of this work too. He's a former, what year did he get the Nobel Prize? I think 2013 Nobel Prize in chemistry. Really smart guy. He's been publishing all of these models tracking the virus, and he's been demonstrating quite elegantly that it's not exponential. Everyone's assuming this thing's going to go exponential, but it's not. It's never hit an exponential rate in any of the countries. So something's putting the brakes on this. I think what's putting the brakes on this is all the papers that we're seeing come out showing that the former coronaviruses that have gone through the population are providing antibodies to SARS-CoV-2. And that was never considered because they ran with this story that it's novel.
So when that word was being used, this is one of those situations where, a philosophical background is really valuable, because you start saying, hey, if we're going to have a term that we add into the environment, everybody should understand what that term actually means, because everybody around me was using it because, oh, it's like COVID or Corona. You told me that's what we call it. So that's what we call it. But they called it a novel coronavirus.
Yes.
And for the people that were like me, I don't know to push back on that. It could have been like the pink coronavirus. It wouldn't have mattered.
Right.
But it actually has meaning in the rest of it has an implication that we ended up taking on as far as how we reacted to the disease.
Absolutely did. And we should never do that again. Just because something is new from an RNA standpoint does not mean that it's new to our immune system. And this is a bit of what goes on in publication bias. I don't think there is any malfeasance here. I think what happens is someone discovers a new coronavirus and that becomes publication meat. Hey, look, I found something new. I can get into a journal and say it's new. It's never been seen before. But if you come out saying, it's kind of been seen before, that doesn't get published as readily. So the truth is that we've got ancestry on this thing. We know that it has relationships to rat G13, but those are 40 to 70 years ago. So it's a huge missing link that we spoke about in the last podcast of 40 to 70 years. We don't know how long this has been in bats and how long it's been over in humans, but the assumption was that the first person they ever sequenced in Wuhan was a zoonotic event or close to it. And I just don't think there's really any evidence for that when you consider coronaviruses have been floating around mammals for ages. And now the antibody studies are coming out showing that there's more, it's been here either longer than we think or spread further than we anticipated. And even those antibody studies, I think, are underestimating the spread, because when you design these antibody tests, you have to go through some work on an exclusivity and inclusivity study usually. What you do is you get a bunch of SARS viruses and show that, look, my test picks up these SARS viruses, but it doesn't pick up MERS and it doesn't pick up SARS-1. So you spend all this time making antibodies that are really, really specific to track the current virus. That's a great thing for tracking the current virus. But if you want to know about the immunity that might be out there, you actually want an antibody test that's going to pick up, is this person going to be immune to this or not? Well, then you might need to survey all the old coronaviruses, because the patient may have seen those and built antibodies to the old coronaviruses that are applicable to this one. And that was never brought into the models, never brought into discussion. And now paper after paper is coming out showing that the antibodies to the old viruses are reactive against this current one. And I think that is really the smoking gun on why this thing never went exponential. And I think that's probably what's behind Michael Levitt's work.
You're saying it never went exponential. I mean, I watch Our World in Data. I'm watching those charts come out, and they look like they are skyrocketing. It looks like, if I turn on the news, they are running a dial that shows, 90,000, 100,000, 1 million people. And for me, I don't know if that's a lot of people or not. And I don't mean to be calloused. I mean, like, you get up to numbers above 20,000 and it's difficult for the human brain to understand them other than in relative size.
It is. And they're often putting them on linear scales, and that's deceiving to the eye. And in sciences, when you're dealing with exponentials, you put them on log scales so that you can tell if it's linear on a log scale, you can gauge the exponent here. But what Michael's work's been showing is that it's not been matching that. So there's some breaks on this thing. We don't know what he's not suggested what the breaks are. He's just been pointing out, look, everybody, it's not going exponential like it should. Why is it not spreading that fast? There must be other phantom forms of immunity or other people that have this virus that when the virus meets them, it's no longer a new event and it's not spreading as fast. The one paper I want to turn everybody to, because this really made my day, because that April 10th video I put out was like, I think there's going to be some immunity to this, but I've got no data to prove it. I just have a hunch, because like ancestry is real and evolution. Things tend to have ancestors, and our immune systems probably has some history to this. This came out from the first author's name on this is Grafani. If I didn't murder that, let me see if I can zoom in on this, because I can't. My eyes have gotten a little bad in lockdown here. Yeah, Grafani, Grifoni, and I'll try and link this to the end of this thing. But it's a paper in Cell. It's just, the title of it is Targets of T-Cell Responses to SARS-CoV-2 Coronavirus in Humans with COVID-19 Disease in Unexpected Individuals. So it's a really good paper, and the most important thing to take out of this is that they flat out say this, is that we detected SARS-CoV-2 reactive CD4 positive T cells in 40 to 60% of unexposed individuals. This is a 100-person study, suggesting cross-reactive T cell recognition between circulating common cold coronaviruses and SARS-CoV-2. So the common cold is basically is counterfeiting the pocket aces on this whole vaccine story. You're not going to need a vaccine. This thing's going to go away before those things even get out the gate.